2020-2021 Texas Blue Bonnet Award nominee, Nightbooks. Chapter 1, The Wrong Floor. After his family had fallen asleep, Alex slung the backpack over his shoulder and snuck out of the apartment, easing the front door gently home so it didn't slam shut. The 8th floor hallway looked dreary than ever without any sunlight coming through its small windows. Alex lingered on the doormat, fighting the urge to return to his warm, comfortable bed. If you do that, he thought, you'll still be the same old Alex Mosher tomorrow. Weirdo, freak, loser. Is that what you want? No, he whispered, but he could change his mind. Alex started toward the elevator at the end of the hall. During the day, snippets of his neighbors' lives leaked through the thin doors, muffled conversations, the loud blare of televisions. Miss Garcia's son practicing his violin. At this time of night, however, the hallway was nearly silent. The only sounds were grimly light bulb that buzzed like an angry hornet, and a soft rustling from Alex's backpack, as though its contents were struggling to escape their fate. Sorry, Alex thought, feeling a wave of guilt. I wish I didn't have to do this, but it's better this way. He reached the elevator and pressed the down button on the cracked panel far below him. Ancient gears squealed away the silence. Alex winced and peeked over his shoulder, hoping that the sound didn't wake any of his neighbors. The stairs would have been a quieter option, but Alex wanted to reach his destination as quickly as possible, so he didn't have the opportunity to second-guess his decision. Ding! The elevator's doors jerked open with a pained squeak. Smudged mirrors paneled the walls. Alex stepped inside and clicked the B button. The basement was his favorite place in the entire apartment building. It was spooky and weird and packed ceiling high with towers of knickknacks left behind by former tenants, like graveyard for unwanted items. The most amazing part, however, was the boiler, an iron monster built nearly 60 years ago. Alex called it Old Smoky. It was his destination tonight. The elevator's doors closed and the car began to descend in slow, jerky increments. Alex tapped his foot impatiently. Though his backpack was far lighter than usual, it seemed to weigh him down like an anchor. I'll feel better after they're gone, he thought. Just toss them in the flames and walk away. Don't even stick around and watch them burn. Of course, Alex could have just dumped the contents of his backpack down the trash chute and done it away with it, but that seemed cruel. Cremating them in Old Smoky felt more honorable, like setting the body of a fallen warrior aflame. Alex figured he owed them a good death at least. After all, he was the one who had created them. The elevator stopped. The doors creaked open. Alex tilted his head in confusion. Inside the basement, an unfamiliar hallway stretched out before him. He checked the digital display at the top of the elevator. 4. Must be broken, he thought. Jabbing the B button with his index finger, the elevator didn't move. Alex sighed with frustration. Looks like I'm taking the stairs after all, he thought. He stepped off the elevator and headed toward the stairwell. The 4th floor had the same basic layout as the 8th, but it was noticeably darker. Alex glanced up at the light bulbs, wondering if a few of them had burned out, but they seemed to be working fine. For some strange reason, however, their glow didn't radiate as far as it should, as though the darkness of this particular hallway was harder to penetrate than the ordinary kind. Just my imagination, Alex thought, ignoring the cold sensation creeping down his spine. The bulbs are probably just old, or weird voices. They were coming from an apartment at the end of the hall. At first, Alex just thought it was just the people who lived there. But he got closer. However, creepy music rose in the background, and Alex realized that the voices belonged to the characters from the movie. He broke into a big grin as he recognized the dialogue. That's Night of the Living Dead, he thought. Alex had been 4 years old at the first time he had saw the movie. He was supposed to have been sleeping, but the strange sounds coming from the living room had piqued his curiosity, and so he had crept out of bed to investigate. His mom and dad were cuddled up on the couch, sharing a bowl of popcorn. Alex hid behind his dad's easy chair and trained his eyes on the television. He had never been so terrified or exhilarated in his life. By the time his parents realized they had an unwelcome visitor, it was too late. Alex was in love. At the end of the month, his Thomas trains had been exiled to the bin in the basement, replaced by toy monsters, plastic fangs, and the stuffed ghost named Boo. He dismantled his Legos, fire trucks, and rocket ships, and used the bricks to build a haunted house. At the library, Alex insisted on borrowing only picture books with little Halloween labels on their spines, and despite the fact that it was June. Night of the Living Dead had been his introduction into the world of creepy things, and for that reason, it held a special place in his heart. Hearing it now, an overpowering desire to watch the movie again fogged all other thoughts. Alex approached the door to the apartment 4E, the static-filled soundtrack reeling him in like a fishing line, and pressed his ear against it. It was one of the earliest scenes in the movie, just before Barbara and her brother were attacked by a zombie in a graveyard. "I've barely missed anything at all," Alex thought with excitement. He had, for a moment, completely forgot about his backpack and the reason coming out tonight. All he could think about was that movie. He was desperate to see it. If Alex had been thinking clearly, he might have realized that it didn't make any sense at all. After all, he could watch Night of the Living Dead anytime he wanted to on his iPad. Surely, that was a better choice than knocking on a stranger's door in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, Alex was not thinking clearly. His green eyes, unusually so sharp and inquisitive behind their glasses, were gone, uncharacteristically flat, and his mouth hung open in a baffled expression, giving him a striking resemblance to one of the zombies in the movie. Alex knocked on the door with 3 quick taps. A woman answered almost immediately, as though she had been expecting his arrival. "Look at this," she had said, peering down at him. "A visitor." The woman was in her late 20s, with dark skin and short, spiky hair. She wore all black and a lot of makeup, especially around her eyes. "I'm sorry," Alex said, his mind swirling. "What am I doing here? I don't know why I knocked. I just—" "What did you hear?" she asked, leaning forward with an eager expression. "Tell me." The movie." The woman smiled. There were tiny gaps between her narrow teeth, giving her a look of one of those weird, glowing fish that prowl in the deepest part of the ocean. "A movie?" she said, with genuine curiosity. "That's new. Which one?" Alex gave the woman a strange look. He could still hear the television blaring behind her, the zombie now banging on the window of Barbara's car, yet she was acting like she heard nothing at all. "Don't you know?" Alex said. "Why should I? The movie is for you, not for me." She opened the door wider. "You want to watch it?" she asked. "I bet it's one of your favorites." A beam of fear cut through the fog of Alex's thoughts. It's the middle of the night, and I'm having a conversation with a total stranger, like it's a normal thing in the world, he thought. What is wrong with me? He took a step back, intending to leave as quickly as possible, when he smelled something wonderful coming from the apartment. Freshly baked pumpkin pie, his favorite. He breathed in the comforting smells of nutmeg and cinnamon, and all the fears instantly evaporated. This woman isn't a threat, he thought. She's just a nice lady who likes horror movies like me. The movie's Night of the Living Dead, Alex said, 1968, directed by George Romero. "Ah," said the woman, "how intriguing. And was I right? It's one of your favorites?" "Top 10, right between Let the Right One In and The Ring." Alex shrugged unapologetically. "I like scary stuff." "You sound like my kind of kid," the woman replied, grinning. It's crazy. I was just about to kick back and watch the movie when I thought the only thing I'm missing is someone to share it with and someone who really appreciates it. And here you are. She opened the door all the way, allowing Alex to view of a comfortable looking couch and a coffee table piled with oatmeal and raisin cookies and pumpkin pie. Across from this cozy setup, a huge TV played the black and white images he longed to see. Barbara staggering toward the farmhouse where she would be trapped for the rest of the movie, with zombies in hot pursuit. Alex took a step forward, entranced. Well, don't just stand there gawking, silly boy, the woman said. Come inside. Even later, when Alex knew that he had been under the influence of a powerful spell, he found it hard to believe that he had entered the apartment so easily. At the time, it was like his body was not his own, but a moth drawn to the flickering lights of a television. He crossed the threshold. The door clicked shut behind him. Gotcha, the woman said under her breath. She slipped a cold hand around the wrist, and all the energy seemed to leave his body. Alex sank into the cushion of the nearby couches, barely able to keep his eyes open. The woman eased into the chair across from him. The smile had faded from her lips. What's your name? She asked. Alexander? Alex? Which one? Alex, he said. He looked around the apartment in confusion. The television had vanished, along with the coffee table and the pumpkin pie. Where'd the TV go? Alex asked. It was never there. No, he insisted. I saw it. The apartment does what it can to get you inside. Different for everyone. A movie is an odd choice. Traditionally, it's some sort of food that draws them in. Kids are always thinking with their stomachs, you know. I smelled pumpkin pie. There you go. It was becoming harder for Alex to focus. The room kept tilting back and forth, like when you first step off the pirate ship at the amusement park. He felt like he might be ill. I want to go home, he said. Obviously, that's not going to happen, Alex. He sat in his seat, moving impossibly slow, hoping to make a mad dash for the door. Except the door had vanished. The place where it had once stood, there was nothing but a blank wall. Where did the door go? He said groggily. Away, the woman said. Don't worry. You won't be needing it anymore. But that's impossible, Alex said. Doors don't just... They can't. Haven't you figured it out yet? She asked, grinning with pride. I'm a witch, just like in the storybook. She touched a single fingernail to her forehead. And you, little mouse, have fallen right into my trap. Alex tried to stand, but his legs had turned into jelly, and he collapsed to the floor instead. A wave of darkness crashed over him.